Okay. Stop whatever you're doing. I'm serious. Put down the phone. Wait, no, don't put down the phone. You need to watch this, but mentally, clear your schedule. Because I'm about to tell you a story that made me, a grown woman who has seen everything on the internet, sit back and say, oh, oh no, oh yes. Picture this. 4 sisters. Black. Beautiful. Broke. Their daddy just died. Left them with nothing but grief, a cramped 2-bedroom apartment, and surprise, surprise, a debt so big it made my stomach hurt just reading it. $2.3 million to the Korean Mafia.
Yeah.
The Mafia. Now, normally when you owe money like that, bad things happen. Very bad things. The kind of things we don't talk about at the dinner table. But these sisters? They got lucky. Or unlucky? Honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out. Because instead of being scattered and sold to God knows who, all 4 of them ended up in front of one man. Park Ming. They call him the Dragon. 6'5". Body like he was carved by ancestors who knew exactly what they were doing. Tattoos climbing up his neck like they're trying to reach his jawline. Hands so big that when he picks up a glass of whiskey, the glass looks like a shot glass. And his eyes?
Girl.
His eyes. Black as midnight. Cold as ice. Looking at you like he already knows every secret you've ever kept and every lie you've ever told. This man runs the entire Dragon Syndicate. We're talking drugs, weapons, politicians, police. If it moves in this city, it moves because Park Ming allows it to move. He's untouchable.
He's terrifying.
And when his men dragged those 4 sisters in front of him and said, "Pick one as payment," you know what this man did? He looked at all 4 of them, slowly, one by one, and he said, with his whole chest, "Why would I pick one when I can take all 4?
Girl.
The audacity, the caucasity. Wait, he's Korean. The Lion King energy of it all. 4 wives. This man decided on the spot that he was going to have 4 wives. And not just any wives.
Sisters.
Who have to figure out how to share him, how to live with him, how to survive him. Now, here's where it gets good. Because these sisters, they're not fighting each other.
Nah.
They're not pulling hair and throwing drinks and calling each other out of their names. They're ride or die. Florence, the oldest, would burn the whole world down for her sisters. Diana, the second one, has enough attitude for all 4 of them combined. Prudent, the shy one, might be soft, but she's stronger than she knows. And Benita, the baby, that girl's got a heart so pure it makes everyone around her want to be better. 4 sisters. 4 queens. 1 dragon who refuses to let any of them go. This is their story. And baby, if you're not subscribed yet, you're about to be mad at yourself when this video ends on a cliffhanger and you can't find part 2. So, do yourself a favor.
Subscribe. Right now. Tap that button.
Hit the bell. Do a little dance if you wanna. I don't judge. You ready?
Good.
Let's get into it. The apartment still smelled like their father. Old Spice cologne, the kind that came in the red bottle, the kind he'd been wearing since Florence was a little girl sitting on his knee while he graded papers at the kitchen table.
Peppermintea.
He drank it every night before bed, said it helped him sleep, even though Florence knew he barely slept at all those last few months. And beneath all of that, faint, stubborn, clinging to the curtains and the carpet, the smell of those cheap cigars he always swore he'd quit. Next month, baby girl. I'll quit next month. He never did. Florence stood at the kitchen sink, gripping the edge of the counter so hard her knuckles had gone pale beneath her brown skin. Her nails dug into the laminate. The dishes sat unwashed in front of her, had been sitting there for 3 days now, but she couldn't bring herself to move. Moving meant doing. Doing meant thinking. Thinking meant accepting that he was gone. And Florence wasn't ready for that. Behind her, the soft sounds of her sisters filled the cramped living room like a familiar song. A sad one. A broken one. Diana was pacing by the window, back and forth, back and forth. Her arms were crossed over her chest, pushing up the curves she usually flaunted with pride. But today, there was no pride in Diana's posture. Just tension. Just barely contained rage. Diana had always been the one who felt things the hardest. She hid it well, behind the red lipstick, the tight clothes, the quick comebacks. But Florence knew better. Diana wasn't angry because she was tough. Diana was angry because she was terrified. On the couch, Prudence sat curled into herself like she was trying to disappear.
Knees pulled to her chest.
Arms wrapped around her shins. Her glasses were smudged with fingerprints and tears she kept wiping away with the back of her hand. Prudence was 22 years old and still looked like she was 16. Small.
Soft.
The kind of woman who apologized when other people bumped into her. The kind who cried during commercials about puppies. She was also the smartest of all of them. Valedictorian. Full scholarship to Howard. 3 different job offers before she'd even graduated. But right now, she just looked lost. And then there was Benita, the baby. 20 years old, though she didn't look it. Round cheeks. Big brown eyes that always seemed to be looking for the good in people, even when there wasn't any good left to find. Benita was clutching a framed photograph to her chest. Their father's face smiled out from behind the glass, younger, happier, before the gambling had hollowed him out. Tears slid silently down Benita's cheeks, dripping off her chin, soaking into the collar of her sweater. She hadn't stopped crying since the funeral. Florence wasn't sure she ever would. 3 weeks. It had been 3 weeks since they'd lowered Ezekiel Montgomery into the cold October ground. 3 weeks since the pastor said, "Ashes to ashes," and Florence had to dig her fingernails into her palms to keep from screaming. 3 weeks since she'd stood in front of her 3 younger sisters, these women she'd helped raise since their mother died when Benita was only 6 and lied through her teeth. "We'll be okay. I'll figure it out. I promise." She hadn't figured out a damn thing. The bills were piling up on the counter. Electric. Water. The credit cards their father had maxed out without telling anyone. The rent. God, the rent. They were already 2 months behind, and the landlord had stopped being sympathetic about a week ago. But the bills weren't the worst part. The calls were the worst part. They'd started the night after the funeral. Blocked numbers. Strange voices. Men who asked for Mr. Montgomery in tones that made Florence's blood run cold. Men who laughed when she said he was dead. Dead doesn't cancel the debt, sweetheart. She'd hung up. They'd called back. And back. And back. Florence hadn't told her sisters about the calls. What was the point? They were already drowning in grief. She wasn't going to add fear to the pile. But late at night, when the apartment was quiet and her sisters were finally asleep, Florence lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what her father had done, wondering what was coming, wondering if she could protect them from it. You're the oldest. You hold it together. That's what you do. That's what you've always done. Florence turned off the faucet, dried her hands on a dish towel that smelled like mildew, tried to breathe past the tightness in her chest. Bang! 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 The front door shook with the force of 3 heavy knocks. Prudence gasped, her whole body jerking like she'd been electrocuted. She shrank deeper into the couch, pulling her knees impossibly tighter. Benita dropped the picture frame. It hit the floor with a sickening crack, glass shattering across the carpet. Their father's face stared up from the mess of broken shards. Diana stopped pacing. Her dark eyes, their mother's eyes, everyone always said, snapped to Florence. Flo. Florence held up a hand.
Stay calm.
Stay calm. It's probably just the landlord. Or a neighbor.
Or bang, bang, bang. Harder this time.
More insistent. Florence walked toward the door. Her heart was hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape. Her palms were slick with sweat. She wiped them on her jeans as she walked. She reached the door, looked through the peephole, and her blood turned to ice water in her veins.
2 men, tall, wide,
Built like they spent more time in the gym than anywhere else. Their faces were hard, expressionless, carved from stone, and just as cold. They wore black suits, expensive ones, the kind that cost more than 6 months of rent in this crappy apartment, and their shoes were polished to a mirror shine. One of them smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who knew something you didn't. The smile of a man who was about to enjoy what came next. Florence's hand hovered over the deadbolt. Don't open it. Don't open it. Call the police. Call. We know you're there, Miss Montgomery. The voice came through the door.
calm.
Almost pleasant. We saw you look through the peephole. Now you can either open this door like a civilized adult, or my associate here can break it down. Either way, we're coming in. The only question is how much mess you want us to make. Florence closed her eyes.
Think, think, think.
But there was nothing to think about. No back exit. No fire escape. No weapon except a butcher knife in the kitchen that she'd never be able to reach in time. They were trapped. Florence unlocked the deadbolt. Opened the door. Just a crack. Can I help you? The smiling man tilted his head. He was handsome in a cold, sharp way, like a knife dressed up in a designer suit. Florence Montgomery? Who's asking? He didn't answer. He simply pushed the door open, hard, sending Florence stumbling backward, her hip crashing into the side table. The lamp wobbled but didn't fall. Both men stepped inside like they owned the place, like they owned everything in it, including the women. Diana lunged forward immediately. Who the hell do you think you are? You can't just.
Seat.
Down. The second man spoke for the first time.
He didn't yell.
He didn't raise his voice even slightly. But something about the flatness of his tone, the deadness in his eyes, made Diana freeze mid-step.
She was brave.
She wasn't stupid. Florence grabbed her sister's arm, pulled her back gently but firmly. Her eyes stayed locked on the smiling man. He was clearly the one in charge. We're here about your father's debt, he said, glancing around the apartment with an expression of thinly veiled disgust. His gaze lingered on the water stain on the ceiling, the crack in the window, the second-hand furniture that had seen better decades. Must be hard, he mused, almost to himself. Growing up with nothing, watching your father pretend he could give you more. Florence's jaw tightened. What debt? The man reached into his jacket. For one terrifying second, Florence thought he was reaching for a gun. But he pulled out a folded piece of paper instead. He handed it to her. Florence took it. Her fingers were trembling. She unfolded it. Read the first few lines. Read the number at the bottom. And her vision blurred. $2,300,000. $2,300,000.
No.
Her voice came out as a whisper. No, that's impossible. Our father was a high school teacher.
He taught history.
He coached the debate team. He couldn't. Gambling. The smiling man said the word like it was nothing, like it was a weather report.
Underground pokerrooms.
High-stakes tables that most people don't even know exist. Your father found them about 4 years ago. Started small, a few hundred here, a few hundred there. But he had a taste for it, and no talent. He smiled again. That terrible, knowing smile. He kept betting, kept losing, kept borrowing more to cover his losses. And by the end, he shrugged.
Well.
You're holding the end in your hands. Prudence let out a whimper from the couch. Benita whispered, Daddy, like she was talking to a ghost. Diana's face had gone gray. For years? He was gambling for 4 years and we didn't. He was very good at hiding it. Desperate men usually are. Florence couldn't breathe. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. Their father, their quiet, gentle father who read poetry and loved jazz and made pancakes every Sunday morning, was a gambler? An addict? A man who'd racked up millions in debt to people who sent men like this to collect? There has to be a mistake. Florence was grasping at straws now. She knew it, but she couldn't stop. We don't have this kind of money. We don't have any money. I can set up a payment plan. A monthly arrangement. I can get a second job. A third job. Whatever it takes. Just give me time to. The smiling man laughed. It was a soft laugh. A cruel laugh. The laugh of a man who had heard 1,000 variations of this same desperate plea. Miss Montgomery. He straightened his jacket, looked her dead in the eyes. The time for negotiation ended the moment your father's heart stopped beating. The room went silent. He knew the terms when he borrowed from us. He knew what would happen if he couldn't pay. And now that he's gone. The man's gaze swept across all four sisters. Slowly, deliberately. His debt passes to his next of kin. That's not legal. We don't operate within the bounds of legality, sweetheart. We operate within the bounds of power. And right now. He smiled. We have all of it. Florence's mind was racing.
Run. Fight. Scream.
Do something. But there was nothing to do. Nowhere to go. They were already caught. The smiling man glanced at his watch. Expensive. Gold. Probably worth more than their father made in a year. Fortunately for you, our employer has decided to offer a solution. Solution? The debt is too large to be repaid through conventional means. So it will be repaid through unconventional ones. He looked at Florence, then Diana, then Prudent, then Benita, one by one, weighing, measuring. You've already been sold. Prudent couldn't stop shaking. The van had no windows, no light, just the rumble of the engine beneath them and the thick, suffocating darkness pressing in from all sides. Her wrists were zip-tied in front of her. Not tight enough to hurt, just tight enough to remind her that she was no longer in control of anything. This is a nightmare. This is a nightmare. Wake up. Wake up. But she couldn't wake up. Because this wasn't a dream. This was real. This was happening. Florence sat on her left, rigid, silent. Her jaw clenched so tight that Prudent could see the muscles jumping beneath her skin.
She was planning something.
She was always planning something. But for once, Prudent didn't feel comforted by her sister's quiet competence. Because there was nothing to plan. No angle to work. No solution to find. They'd been taken.
Sold.
Like furniture. Like objects. Like they didn't matter at all. Diana sat on her right, coiled tight as a spring. Her body was tense, vibrating with barely contained rage. If she could have burned their captors alive with her eyes, she would have. But rage wouldn't save them either. Benita was pressed against Prudent's side, her head resting on Prudent's shoulder. Her body trembled with silent sobs. She'd always been the baby, the one they all protected, the one who still believed in happy endings. Prudent wondered if Benita would ever believe in anything again after tonight. The van hit a bump, and Prudent's shoulder slammed against the metal wall. Pain shot through her arm. She bit her lip to keep from crying out. Don't make a sound. Don't give them anything. Just survive. Just survive. The words ran through her head on repeat. A prayer. A plea. A promise she wasn't sure she could keep. Time lost meaning in the dark. Minutes felt like hours. Seconds stretched into eternities. And then finally the van stopped. Prudent's heart seized in her chest. Doors opened. Hands reached in, large hands, rough hands, and grabbed them. Pulled them out into the night. The cold air hit Prudent like a slap. She gasped, her lungs burning, her eyes watering as they adjusted to the sudden brightness. They were standing in front of a building that looked like it belonged in another world. Sleek black architecture, all sharp angles and polished surfaces. Gold accents gleaming under carefully placed spotlights. No sign, no name, nothing to indicate what this place was or who it belonged to. But the men in black suits stationed at every entrance, at least a dozen of them, all watching, all silent, told Prudence everything she needed to know. This was a fortress, and they were prisoners. We're going to die here. The thought came unbidden, cold,
Certain.
we're going to die here, and no one will ever know what happened to us. The men pushed them forward, through heavy double doors that opened silently, like the building itself was expecting them, down a corridor lined with dim red lights that made everything look like blood, past doors that led to rooms Prudence didn't want to imagine. And then, they emerged into a space that stole the breath from Prudence's lungs. It was massive. Cathedral ceilings soaring so high they disappeared into shadow. Black marble floors polished to a mirror shine. Crystal chandeliers hanging like frozen tears, dripping light across the cavernous room. The walls were lined with art, modern pieces, abstract shapes, splashes of color that probably cost more than Prudence would make in 10 lifetimes. And, at the far end of the room, a throne.
No.
Not a throne, a chair. A high-backed leather chair, black as midnight, sitting on a raised platform at the top of 3 marble steps. But the man sitting in it? He made it a throne. Prudence's heart stopped. She'd seen powerful men before. Her father had introduced her to principals and politicians and business owners, men who wore their authority like expensive suits. But this was different. This man didn't wear his power. He was power. He was enormous. Even sitting, Prudence could tell he'd tower over everyone in this room.
Tall. Broad.
Shoulders that looked like they could carry the weight of empires. His hair was black, pure black, no trace of gray, pushed back from a face that was devastatingly beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful. Sharp cheekbones that could cut glass. A jaw that looked carved from marble. Full lips pressed into a flat, expressionless line. And eyes.
God, his eyes.
They were dark. So dark they looked black. Like staring into the void. Like looking into a night sky with no stars. And right now, those eyes were fixed on them. On her. Prudence felt herself shrinking. She wanted to disappear. Wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. Wanted to be anywhere but here, under the weight of that impossible gaze. Tattoos crept up from the collar of his black dress shirt. Intricate designs in black and gray, climbing his neck like vines, disappearing into his hairline behind his left ear. His hands rested on the arms of the chair. Large.
Veined.
Decorated with heavy silver rings on nearly every finger. He didn't move.
He didn't speak.
He just watched them, like a predator deciding whether its prey was worth the chase. The smiling debt collector from earlier stepped forward, bowed deeply, a full, reverent bow that made Prudence's stomach turn. Mr. Park. His voice was different now, smaller, subservient, as promised. The Montgomery sisters, all 4 of them. Silence. It stretched across the room like a living thing. Heavy, suffocating, endless. And then, he spoke. These are the 4? 3 words. Just 3 words. But his voice, it was low.
Smooth.
Deep as an ocean and twice as dangerous. It moved through the air like smoke, wrapping around Prudence's throat, making it hard to breathe.
She could feel it in her chest.
In her bones. In places she didn't want to think about. The smiling man nodded eagerly. Yes, sir. Their father owed you $2.3 million, as per our agreement. I know what he owed. The collector went silent. Immediately. Like someone had pressed a mute button. Park Ming leaned back in his chair. His dark eyes never left the sisters. Prudence couldn't hold his gaze. She looked down, stared at the black marble floor, counted the frantic beats of her own heart.
Please. Please.
Somebody help us. Anybody. Please. No one answered. Okay. I need y'all to pause for just 1 second.
Take a breath.
Unclench your jaw. Maybe take a sip of water because, girl, I know you're stressed right now. Because this man, Park Ming, 6'5" of pure, unadulterated danger sitting on a throne like he owns the world? Baby, he probably does own the world. At least his part of it. And he's looking at these 4 sisters like he's already made a decision about them. Like he's already decided something that's going to change their lives forever. Now, what happens next? That's the part that had me screaming at my screen. If you're not subscribed yet, I don't even know what you're doing with your life.
Hit that button. Right now.
Because what Park Ming is about to say. Girl, you're not ready. But we're gonna find out anyway. Diana wasn't scared. That's what she told herself. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. The words repeated in her head like a drumbeat. A war cry. A shield against the terror that was trying to claw its way up her throat. She stood with her shoulders back, chin lifted, chest out. Her curves were on full display in the tight jeans and low-cut burgundy top she'd been wearing when they were snatched from their apartment. The outfit was meant for a night out with friends, not this. But Diana had learned long ago that her body was a weapon.
And right now,
she was ready to use it. Let him look. She'd been looked at by men her whole life, undressed by their eyes before she'd even finished walking into a room, reduced to measurements, reduced to fantasies, reduced to a body without a brain, a face without a soul. She'd learned to use it, to weaponize it, to make men so distracted by her curves that they never saw the knife coming. So let this man look. Let him stare at her breasts, her hips, her thick thighs. Let him underestimate her like all the others. She'd find a way out of this. She always found a way. But then, she met his eyes. And everything changed. Because Park Ming wasn't looking at her body. He was looking at her face. Her eyes. And what she saw in his gaze wasn't lust. It was recognition. Like he could see something beneath the attitude. Beneath the armor. Beneath the careful construction of Diana the seductress. Like he could see the scared little girl underneath. Diana hated it. She hated it with every fiber of her being. She forced herself not to look away. Forced herself to hold his stare. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of anyone. The corner of his mouth twitched. Just barely. Like he found her amusing. And that made Diana even angrier. The smiling debt collector stepped forward, rubbing his hands together like a greedy merchant showing off his wares. Mr. Park, as per our original agreement, you may select one of the sisters as payment for the debt. Diana's blood ran cold. Select one? The remaining 3, the collector continued, will be sold to other interested parties to cover the remainder of the... Sold where? That was Florence. Her voice was sharp as a blade, cutting through the collector's sales pitch like a knife through paper. Where are you planning to sell my sisters? The debt collector didn't even glance at her, just kept his eyes on Park Ming like a dog waiting for its master's approval. That's not your concern. Diana saw red. Pure, blinding red. The hell it isn't. Quiet. One word. From Park Ming. And somehow, impossibly, Diana's mouth snapped shut.
She didn't want it to.
Every instinct in her body was screaming at her to keep fighting, to curse him out, to tell him exactly what she thought of him and his throne and his ridiculous god complex. But her voice wouldn't come. Her body wouldn't move. It was like his word had physically locked her in place. And that scared her more than anything else. Park Ming rose from his chair. Oh God. Standing, he was even more terrifying. He had to be 6'5" at least. Maybe 6'6". He moved down the steps slowly, each footstep echoing through the silent room like a countdown. And his body. Diana had seen fit men before. Gym rats. Athletes. Men who spent their whole lives sculpting themselves into something impressive. But Park Ming wasn't sculpted. He was carved. Shoulders broad enough to block out the light. A chest that strained against his black dress shirt. Arms that looked like they could break a man in half without much effort. And his hands. God, his hands. They hung at his sides as he walked, but Diana couldn't stop staring at them. Large. Thick-fingered.
Veined.
Those silver rings catching the light with each step. Hands that could probably wrap around her entire waist. Hands that had probably done terrible things. Hands that were coming closer. And closer. And closer. He stopped in front of them. 3 feet away.
Close.
Too close. Diana could smell him now. Sandalwood.
Tobacco.
Something darker underneath. Something that made her think of smoke and fire and things that burned. He was silent for a long moment.
Just looking at them.
Assessing. Then he began to move. He stopped in front of Florence first. Her eldest sister stood firm, even though Diana could see the tremble in her hands. Florence's chin was lifted. Her eyes were blazing. Park Ming tilted his head. Those black eyes traced her face like he was memorizing every detail. Defiant, he murmured. His voice was even more devastating up close. Low and smooth and rumbling through Diana's chest like distant thunder. Even now, surrounded by my men, in my house, with no way out. He paused. You're still planning, still calculating, still looking for an escape. Florence didn't flinch. You're damn right I am. Something flickered across Park Ming's face. Not anger, not irritation. Interest. A spark of genuine curiosity. There and gone in an instant. Good, he said quietly. Don't stop. He moved on. To Diana. He stopped directly in front of her. So close she could feel the heat radiating off his body. So close she had to crane her neck to meet his gaze. She forced herself to look up. Forced herself to hold that bottomless black stare. His eyes dropped, just for a second, traveling down her body so quickly she almost missed it. Then they returned to her face. Bold, he said softly. The word rumbled through her. You want to slap me right now. Maybe worse. I can see it in your eyes. The rage. The defiance. Diana's hand twitched at her side. She hadn't even realized she'd been clenching her fist. His lips curved.
Just barely.
A ghost of a smirk that made her want to scream. Brave, he said. Stupid, but brave. I'm not stupid. The words came out before she could stop them. His eyebrow twitched.
No. No. I'm smart.
Smart enough to know that men like you are all the same. You think your money and your muscles and your... She gestured vaguely at his face. Your everything gives you the right to take whatever you want. And you think it doesn't? I know it doesn't. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he leaned down. Close. Too close. His breath was warm against her ear. We'll see. He pulled back.
Moved on.
And Diana was left standing there, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might crack her ribs, wondering if she'd just made things better or worse. Prudent was next. Diana watched her baby sister tremble as the giant of a man stopped before her. Prudent was staring at the floor, her whole body shaking, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. Park Ming didn't touch her, but he leaned down, just slightly, enough to put his face closer to her level. Look at me. Prudent shook her head. A tiny motion, barely a movement at all. Little one. His voice was softer now, still commanding, but gentler. Look at me. Slowly, so slowly it was almost painful to watch. Prudent lifted her gaze. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her glasses were crooked on her face. She looked like a rabbit caught in a trap. Park Ming studied her for a long, silent moment. The room held its breath. "Innocent," he said finally. The word was barely a whisper.
Soft.
Untouched by cruelty. He paused. His dark eyes flickered with something Diana couldn't name. "That won't last here." Prudent let out a choked sob. Diana moved to step forward, every instinct screaming at her to pull her sister away, to put herself between Prudent and this monster. But Florence grabbed her arm, held her back, shook her head once. "Not yet. Not yet." Diana understood, but she hated it. Finally, Park Ming moved to Benita, the youngest, 20 years old, and still looking at the world like it might be kind to her someday. Benita was crying too, but unlike Prudent, she held his gaze. Even through her tears, even through her fear, her chin trembled, but it stayed lifted. "Please," she whispered. Her voice was so soft Diana almost didn't hear it. "Please don't hurt us. We didn't do anything wrong. We'll do whatever you want. We'll work. We'll pay you back. Every penny. Just please." Her voice cracked.
Broke.
"Please don't hurt my sisters." Not herself. Her sisters. Diana felt something crack in her chest. Park Ming stared at Benita for a long, silent moment. Something moved behind his eyes. Something human. Something almost like pain. "Sweet," he said finally. His voice was rough. "Dangerously sweet. You have no idea, do you? What men would do for a woman like you. What wars would be fought. What blood would be spilled." Benita shook her head. "I don't want any of that. I just want to go home." "Home," Park Ming repeated, like he was tasting the word, like it meant something different to him than it did to her. "We'll see about that." He turned away, walked back toward his throne. The distance between them yawned open like a wound. The debt collector stepped forward eagerly, practically vibrating with anticipation. "So, which one, Mr. Park?" "I personally recommend the curvy one." He jerked his chin toward Diana. "She'd fetch a high price elsewhere if you don't want her for yourself, but she has obvious assets. The innocent one would appeal to certain clients as well. Very fresh, if you understand my meaning." Diana felt bile rise in her throat. Prudent made a small, broken sound. Florence stepped forward. "You disgusting piece of..." "Shut your mouth." Park Ming didn't yell. He didn't need to. The collector went pale. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean..." "You're speaking about my property. Choose your words more carefully." "His property." Diana wanted to scream, wanted to lunge forward and claw his eyes out, wanted to burn this whole building to the ground. But she didn't move, couldn't move, because Park Ming was turning around, facing them again. And when he spoke, his voice was calm, cold, absolute. "Why would I choose one?" His dark eyes swept across all four sisters.
Slowly.
Deliberately. Possessively. "When I can have all four?"
I
need a moment." Did he just say what I think he said? All four. All four. This man looked at four whole sisters, for grown women with their own lives and dreams and personalities, and said, "Yeah."
Meaning.
All of them. Not one. Not two.
4.
The audacity. The confidence. The absolute, unhinged, big dick energy of this man. "Girl, I can't handle one man's laundry and Park Ming is out here collecting wives like Pokemon cards. Gotta catch him all, apparently.
I'm stressed. I'm speaking."
And we haven't even gotten to the good part yet. If you are still not subscribed, I don't understand you. I genuinely do not understand what you're doing with your life.
Subscribe.
Hit the notification bell. Do it now. Because these sisters, they're about to find out exactly what it means to belong to the dragon. Now, let's get back into it. The room erupted into chaos. What? That was Florence, stepping forward, her whole body rigid with rage, her fists clenched at her sides like she was ready to fight every person in this room and probably win. You can't be serious. Diana was moving too, positioning herself in front of Prudent and Benita like a human shield. This isn't a goddamn buffet. You can't just take all of us. We're human beings. We're not. We're not property. Aren't you? Park Ming's voice cut through the shouting like a knife. You were sold to pay a debt. Your names were written on a piece of paper and handed to me like a receipt. Whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, that makes you property. Florence made a sound that was somewhere between a scream and a growl. I don't care what piece of paper says. And yet, here you are, in my house, surrounded by my men, wearing zip ties on your pretty wrists. His dark eyes glittered. Property. Benita felt sick. Her stomach churned. Her head spun. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be happening. She was supposed to be at work tomorrow. She had an early shift at the bakery. Mrs. Chin was going to show her how to make the fancy croissants, the ones with the chocolate inside. She'd been looking forward to it all week. She was supposed to meet her friends for brunch on Saturday. She was supposed to finish the book she'd been reading, the one about the girl who fell in love with a prince. She was supposed to have a life. And now she was standing in a Mafia throne room, being told she was property. Being told she belonged to a man she'd never met. Being told she would never go home.
Mama.
The thought came unbidden, sharp and painful and sudden. Mama, I wish you were here. I wish you could tell me what to do. I wish you could hold me and tell me everything's going to be okay. But Mama was gone. Had been gone for 14 years. And Daddy was gone too. And now there was no one left to protect